Hi, how are you?
Hello.
Yes. No. How do you pronounce your name?
Oh, sorry. Eowyn.
Eowyn. Okay, is that French?
It's Celtic. It's from Lord of the Rings, actually.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh my God. Yes. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
You can call
Very
me.
cool.
Yeah.
Eowyn is fine. And what grade are you in?
I'm in 10th grade.
Okay. How do you like it?
Hmm.
Okay. Great. Great.
Okay.
Great. Great. Yeah. And you studied an animation program at the Lycée?
I started the animation club, yeah.
At the club. Sorry. Yeah. 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 And how is that going?
Oh, it's going well. We just finished up a few stop motion projects right now.
Yes.
Yeah, with Christmas and holiday scenes.
Yeah, yeah. Stop motion is tricky, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't go back and fix anything. Like once you do it, you have to do the whole thing, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
But it went well.
So have yes, please go ahead.
Oh, well, it went well. We made two movies. Well, short
You
films,
made
sorry.
two movies? That's
Mhm.
cool. Okay. And are we gonna be able to see them? Are they
Sure.
gonna put them on the lycée? Yeah, on the
Yeah.
website? Okay, great. Yeah,
Or at least on the
very cool.
TV if it's a
So
phone. Hmm.
yeah, 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 yeah. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay. So, first up, Mr. Kalache, thank you so much for taking the time to
You
speak with
yes,
me and the Animation
thank
Club.
you.
It's an honor.
Thank you.
Um,
And you can
with
call me JC.
okay, JC.
Okay.
With your permission, I'd like to record this interview so that we can like
Yeah.
revisit your insights later as a learning
Of
research for
course.
club members. Okay,
Of
thank you.
course. Yeah. Of course.
Okay, so let's start. So Pixar's movies inspires like millions around the globe, and today
Yeah.
we'll be asking questions about your career journey, the magic behind Pixar films, and advice for
Okay.
aspiring animators like us. So
Brilliant.
let's start with career and inspiration. Let me share
Yes.
my screen.
Okay.
Uh, yes. Where you see this? Okay.
I see it. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So first we have a question.
Oh, I didn't get the volume, AOE.
Oh,
Where is the
hmm.
volume? Oh, can you hear the volume yourself?
Yeah, I can hear.
Oh, that's
Um,
funny.
Shoot.
Let me try without AirPods. 1 second.
Wait. Oh, I
Okay.
think I can do it.
Okay. Go ahead.
Mm, Let me check.
What inspired you to join Pixar?
Okay. That's a great question. That's an easy one. Um, I started out in school, in college, studying architecture. I always wanted to be an architect. And then when I finished my undergraduate degree, I was doing my master's in architecture. And this company that I never heard of called Pixar came to our college and they gave a 30-minute presentation. And I fell in love with what they were doing. At the time, I was not doing computer graphics. I was doing masters in architecture. So I went that same day to my advisor and I asked if I could switch majors. And with like a little bit of luck and try this and that, I was able to go from architecture to computer graphics. And I didn't know the reason Pixar came to our college. We had a brand new program for computer animation and computer graphics. And it was a very, very small program. They only had 12 students.
Okay.
So I applied late and I was number 12 to get in. And that's how it all started. So it was pretty much unplanned. Pixar just showed up and they showed some of their short projects, and that was it for me. I was completely sold on it.
It's really interesting. Okay. We have a second question from Jayden. Let me find my screen again, if I can find it. Hmm. There we go. Um, okay. Second question.
What movies have you made?
Okay, so Another great question. So I personally have not made a single movie. It takes 200 to 300 people to make a movie at Pixar. I always say it takes a village to make a movie. The movies I worked on, I started at Pixar. I did A Bug's Life. My title was a lighting technical director. And then I immediately jumped to Toy Story 2, and I was a lighting supervisor. And then I did Monsters Inc. I was a director of photography. After Monsters Inc., I did Cars. I was also the director of photography. After Cars, I did Up. I was also director of photography. After Up, I did uh, Monsters University. And then after director of photography and after Monsters University, I did Toy Story 4. And then after Toy Story 4, I did Elemental. And now it's full circle. I'm going back and I'm doing Toy Story 5. And I'm so excited.
A lot of Toy Stories.
Yes,
It's so
exactly.
impressive to like be with a person. Like I've watched those movies like a lot, and it
I
feels
know.
very
Yeah.
special.
Yeah. I fell in love with Pixar when they came to the college and presented, and then a couple of months later, the first Toy Story came out in theaters, so we went and saw it, and I'm like, oh my God, this is exactly what I want to do. So to come to Pixar and work with the people who created Toy Story, the first one was like for me, like it was the highlight of my career. And I'm still a lot of them retired or like moved on, but I'm still working with quite a few that actually worked on the first Toy Story after like 30 years, which is amazing. Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, we have another question. Mm,
Ready?
Yeah.
Go.
Can you tell us about your role at Pixar and what a typical day looks like?
Yes. Of course, another great question. So my job title is director of photography. It's my role is to work on the lighting of the movie. A typical movie has around 1,600 scenes. So we work on each scene at a time. I usually have a team between 25 and 50 people, depending on the complexity of the movie. And I meet with every single person every day, and we look at the scene they're working on. A typical scene usually takes a week, sometimes 2 weeks to work on. So at every day we look at the scene and I try to give feedback, a little bit brighter, darker, let's try something different and all that. So all my notes are typically come in from conversations I've had with the director. So before I give notes, I have to meet with the directors and ask them what exactly they're trying to get out of a scene. Well, the reason I love lighting because it's visual storytelling. So usually when we light, we turn off the audio and we try to see if we can tell the story with color, with light, with shadows, and all that. So I talked to the director. I asked him for a specific scene about the emotion of the characters. I usually ask how should the audience feel, like who should they connect with. We talk about the mood of the scene. Is it somber? Is it happy? We talk about the colors. We talk about photographic approaches. Is it cinematic? Is it out of focus? Is there a depth of field which affects the focus in the image? So I would say I usually spend 2 to 3 years on a movie. The first year, I spend a lot of time talking to the directors, trying to get in their head, trying to understand what they want. And the more I know what they want, I go and create projects to see if I can replicate what they want. So a typical, like an example, Elemental, I just finished Elemental, and the director wanted I don't know if you saw it, but he wanted a female character that was fire and a male character that was water. And those are incredibly hard to work with, incredibly hard to light. So as soon as the director said, I want a water character, and I said in our conversation, water is very complex and very busy. How busy do you want that reflection on the character? And he said, I don't know. So I ended up creating a project. It took us 1 year to create the water character. And we tried a lot of experiments. And sometimes it looked good. Sometimes it looked like jello. Sometimes it looked like the director would say, it looks like water in a bag. I don't want that. Sometimes he would say, it's water in the vase. I'm like, okay. So we tried a lot of iterations. And then eventually we came up with a look. Now that I know that look, when my team comes to spend the next 2 years, so 3 years of the show, the first year I do research by myself. The next 2 years I have a team. Now I know what we expect. Now I know what we know. So I spend the next 2 years like sharing with them what I learned from my director. And there's a lot of, we call these look development projects. So look development project is an idea or a scene that we have in the movie and we don't know how we're going to execute it. So on Elemental, we had 32 look development projects. So it was a super busy, complex movie though. So we had to go in, try to figure out the answers to all these projects before the team came on board.
Okay, that's very interesting. Yeah. I guess we're gonna be going through questions more about the process now.
Sure.
Mm,
What is the process for developing a new character at Pixar? Do you have a favorite character you helped bring to life?
Oh, wow. Great. Yeah, great. I'm going to work backwards with this question. Yeah, it is really, really important in lighting to bring characters to life. And we do it in several different ways. Usually we target the eyes. The eyes are very expressive. When you think of a human or any interaction with people, you make eye contact with them. So the first thing we usually look at is the eyes and then the face. So it's really important for us to make that as appealing as possible or maybe as scary as possible, depending on what the character, the personality is. So when I think of a character, I think of planes on the face, and I try to shape those planes. So if I put a light right here, I know this plane will be bright, this plane will be dark, but it will make that dark part of the face will make it enigmatic. Like you kind of wonder what the character is thinking about. If I move the light more towards the front, the whole face becomes lit. It makes it maybe a little bit more appealing, less threatening. If I move the light under the chin, it looks really scary because we're not used to up shadows. So we do spend a lot of time trying to figure out what makes a character appealing, what makes a character look menacing, what makes a character look weak, what makes a character look strong. But we also work with colors. So if it's a human skin, typically warm light makes the skin look good. Cooler light makes it okay. Green light makes it look sick, right? Like those are some examples. So we do work with a lot of color experimentation when we're working with characters. The reason is, and there's a lot of studies about color theory, and there's a lot of great books out there, but color has a direct impact on how we feel immediately. So we know that if we put a pink color on the screen, you relax. And if we put a red color, you get a little bit agitated. If we put the blue color, you think ocean or sky. If we put a green color, you think maybe forest. Like there's a lot of association with color that people think of. Gray color doesn't feel right, right? Like the skin is not looking, should not look gray. So we do spend quite a bit of time up front before we start the movie exploring what makes our characters look a certain unique way. So we have the protagonist, antagonist, and everything in between. And that's not just for humans. Like I worked on the movie Cars. So were also the characters. And same thing, we apply the same principles of shaping the face and coloring the face in unique ways so that we can make the characters read. In terms of my favorite character at Pixar, there's a lot of great characters. I like from Up. I like the bird. It was such a Kevin. It was such a unique character to work with, full of colors, and we had to make sure his colors looked bright and vibrant. Uh, I like the characters from Toy Story quite a bit. I really like Woody. I had a chance to meet Tom Hanks in person at Pixar, and it's so neat to see Tom Hanks and to be working on Woody. It's the same characters, but it's kind of weird to see both of them. Um, I do like most of our characters. Most of the time, for me, what's most important is to connect with the character. I think that is the most important thing, and to connect with the scene that you're showing. So whenever you're creating your next project, it's really important for to think about your audience and making sure that they can connect with those characters. I think Woody is like an icon in terms of connecting with worldwide with kids. McQueen is an interesting character too, like the car. Um, I like Mr. Fredrickson from Up and Russell, the kid. I think the duo of those two that was really cool, and no one imagined that Pixar would make a movie about an old person like that as the main character. I thought that was really innovative. So yeah, those are some of the characters that I like. Yeah.
Mhm. It's really interesting to like know that like the eyes are like it's like that quote, the eyes are the windows to the soul, you know?
Yeah,
That's
100%. In
mhm.
fact, we have a very impressive system to make the eyes look a certain way, with highlights, with gleams, with irises, with pupils, with scleras. We actually develop, we call them rigs, like a system of lights that you put on characters where it really brings the eyes to life or not. And if you watch carefully, animators, they're always sizing the pupils. When a character is scared, the pupil go big. When a character is, a little bit comfortable, they go back normal. Sometimes they shrink. Our eyes themselves animate quite a bit and move. People don't think eyes move, but in animation you can do pretty much anything. So yeah, I would say we focus on the eyes most of the time, and we focus too on the middle of the screen. 90% of the time, you look at the middle of the screen. And I would say 10% of the image is usually the middle of the screen, and 90% of the image is everything outside that. And we did studies where we tracked how people watch movies, our movies, and we had devices on their eyes. And we noticed that they look at the middle of the frame 90% of the time. It's crazy. It's amazing. So if you do all that work at the edge, most likely no one will look at it. There's not enough time to realize that. If it's a photograph, yes. But if it's a moving image, it takes, because you're cutting from one shot to that another shot to another shot, your eye will only lock quickly on the most important thing, and that is typically characters, eyes, face, and then the middle of the frame.
That's really interesting. Okay, let's go to the next question. We have
How does Pixar develop ideas for stories? Are there certain qualities or themes the studio focuses on?
Yeah, fantastic. Great question. I'm not in the story department, but I can talk a little bit about some of the things that I've experienced at Pixar. So, when we were making, I think we were making Monsters Inc. Okay. So the director, Pete Docter, and the other director, Andrew Stanton, who did Nemo, they went out to lunch and they were trying to come up with ideas for Monsters Inc. And they had a napkin on the table. And Pete started drawing a robot. And they said, "Oh, robot with monsters, maybe it's not, it doesn't fit that world." And Pete is like, "No, no, it's a robot. Maybe we call it Wally." and was like, no, I don't think it's gonna work for Monsters Inc. And then we made Monsters Inc. without a robot. And then Andrew came back one day, said, I want to make a movie about a robot. It's a love story about a robot, and that robot is trying to clean planet Earth because of pollution and all that stuff. So this is an example of how that one story came about. It was a conversation at a restaurant on a napkin, and that story came out. Nemo, Finding Nemo, when Andrew Stanton did it, he just had a child. His child was maybe a year old, so he's a father. And he realized as a father, he's become overly protective. He followed his kid everywhere. He wanted the best for his kid. And he channeled that experience into a movie called Nemo, Finding Nemo. And that, if you remember Finding Nemo, at the beginning of the movie, Nemo loses his mother, and the whole story is about the dad and the son. So that was Finding Nemo. For Cars, for example, we finished Toy Story 2, and everyone was very, very tired. It was a very hard movie. And then the director, John Lasseter, went on a trip on Route 66 in the US because he wanted to drive away from the busy city. And Route 66 is this beautiful traditional route that goes through a lot of these forgotten places. And as he was driving, he realized the importance of slowing down in life. Like you can't keep running all the time. So he came back and he proposed a movie called Cars, which is about a race car driver. So that when you think race car, a car, sorry, it's a car that it's all about moving fast. Everything is fast for a race car that is lost and finds itself in on Route 66 in Radiator Springs town. And that town is very, very slow. So a lot of these stories come about from a director experience. Sometimes it's literally their life. Sometimes it's a metaphor of their life. And last one I'll tell you about is Inside Out 2. And Inside Out, actually, the first one. Our director, Pete Docter, his daughter just turned 12, and he was seeing her evolution with the way she saw the world, what made her like sensitive, what made her happy, whatever, like in real time. And he channeled all that in a movie called Inside Out. So that is the process. We Miyazaki one time came to Pixar and someone asked him, what's the best part about making cartoons, telling movies, telling storytelling?" He said the best part is that idea, the first idea. He said everything after that is hell because it's really hard. But it's true that at Pixar too, a lot of the time these ideas are just the spark. Like the directors will notice something and they'll go about that. And one last comment about storytelling and where the stories come from. Sometimes we'll be making a movie and then someone will ask a question. So on Monsters Inc., one of the story artists said, "How did Sully and Mike meet? Where did they meet?" And someone said, "I don't know, maybe in college, maybe at university." So we finished Monsters Inc. And 5 years later, someone said, "I want to make a movie called Monsters University to show how these two met." So it was like a going back in time. So that's the process. The department of story is usually not a big department, maybe 10 people. They take the script that the director and the writer put together. Each script is a description of a sequence. Like I mentioned, we have 1,600 shots in a movie. Every 10, 20, 30 shots make a sequence. So we have multiple sequences. And we'll take a sequence. The director will write a very brief description of what the story is. Then you give it to a story artist. The story artist then will use storyboards and sketches to give their best interpretation of what that script is about. But they also have full creative freedom to experiment and try different ideas with that. So as a result, we end up with what we call storyboards, and we play them back to back. So it looks like you're watching like a flip book. and we add scratch voices. We add a lot of the scratch voices are Pixar employees that go do the scratch voices. I tried it one. It was so hard. I hated it. But because you go in and they give you a script and you're supposed to be like super like an actor. And I'm like, wow, this is really hard. I don't know how actors do it, but it's pretty impressive. And then we also add scratch. So we add scratch voices, scratch music, and then the storyboards. And we make the whole movie with just pure storyboards. The reason we do that, because it's much, much cheaper than building the real movie and realizing it's not good. I usually use the analogy of if you're constructing a house, you don't want to build the whole house to say, I don't like it. Or you don't want to construct it, say, oh, the window should be here, not there. What you want to do is the cheapest possible way. You want to build that house, maybe a maquette, maybe drawings, and then maybe virtual reality where you see it and then you say, okay, that's the house that I want, and then you build it. So that's our story process. We have a small department that takes on the whole script and they build it. And one last thing, I think what makes Pixar special compared to many other companies is we many times we write the story for a sequence, we watch it, we think we like it, and then a couple of months later we realize it's not working, we throw it away and we start again. So the process of starting over is very common in story. Like we don't just say, oh, I wrote it once and that's it, I can't do it anymore. We keep refining the story the whole time, which I don't think many studios can afford to do that because it's very costly. Even when we start production, and I know ideally you want to figure out the story, but if we reveal that some parts are not working, we'll go back to the drawing board and rewrite some of that script.
That's very interesting.
What's
Okay. We have also a couple of few other questions, so I'll just play them through.
Yep,
I could
absolutely.
always start a new meeting if the time runs out, but
No, I'm okay on time, Eowyn.
oh yeah, don't worry. It's just the Zoom has like a 40-minute limit
Oh, got it. Yeah.
unless you pay or okay.
How many people typically work on one Pixar movie, and how do they coordinate?
Yeah. Wow, these questions are amazing. Typically, 200 to 300 people will work on a movie. The reason it varies is because sometimes movies are harder. Like if a movie has like Incredibles or Incredibles 2, there's a lot of effects, a lot of explosion, like a lot of that. You have more people. And if a movie like maybe Toy Story 4 is less effects, so to speak, you might have a smaller team. Um, so around 200 people, 250, 300 people is normal on our movie. Um, these people will work on a movie on an average for 2 years. And then before that large number, there's a team of maybe 50 people that will work on it for an additional year. And that's that first year. We call that look development and research. We try to answer a lot of things. The what makes Pixar, for me at least, very special is the spirit of collaboration. I know everyone who works on the movie. So if we're 300 people, I literally know and talk to 300 people because think of it as it's like a soccer team. You cannot have one player do all the work. Like you always need the help of someone else. So communication is really important, especially when it's something like really hard. Like you want to lean on other departments and talk to them. So my department lighting talks to pretty much every department, but I'm gonna give an example. On Toy Story 4, we towards the end of the movie, there's a carnival, and that carnival had 30,000 light bulbs. Okay, so because it's a carnival at night, so 30,000 light bulb is a very big project in computer graphics because you have to build everything from scratch. So one person can't do it, 10 people can't do it. It really took many departments. So lighting and the people, we call them the sets department who build the environment, and the people who do shading, surfacing, so they add color and texture. And the tools, which is engineering department, where they can write us new tools, we all got together and we said, okay, here's a light bulb. We're going to need 30,000. And they're all very unique and colorful, and they need to be animated. Oh, we got effects in there. They need to be animated. How are we going to do this? And we worked on that project for a year. And then every day, and you start very, very simple. First, you say, here's a light bulb, someone will model it. Then light will go in and say, okay, I put a light inside of it. Oh, I like the shape that it projects. Like if it's a flower light, it projects like a flower. Like, great. Now can we animate it? So effects will come in and try to animate it a little bit. Now, what happens if we have 30,000? Oh, it becomes really expensive. So when you create a frame in CG, we call it rendering. When you render a frame, some of our frames take 200 hours, like to come back. And so, and the reason we can see it the next day is because we have multiple processors. So we take 200 hours and we divide it maybe by 10 processor machine, and then it comes back in 20 hours. So collaboration is 100% like in our DNA at Pixar. Like there's no way anyone can finish a movie at Pixar by skipping a single department. So we're very tied to each other and rely on each other very much so.
That's very interesting how you collaborate like that. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we have one last question in this like section.
How long does it take to make a animation scene from a movie like Up?
Yeah, so the life, okay, a movie takes 2 to 3 years. As I said, the life of a shot is really interesting. It starts out in the story department as a sketch, as a storyboard. It then goes to a department called layout, which is the camera department. So, and they try to create a very simple world of that sketch, and it's all in 3D, but it's very simple. Think of it in architecture, it would be like a maquette. Okay. Then there's a department that comes in and says, oh, you have characters in the scene. I need to move up and see what they look like. That department is called animation. Then the next department is called environments or sets. The sets people say, oh, I see the camera department. They put like a simple tree. Let me make the real tree, like the way it's going to look in the movie. Once that tree is created, there's another department called shading. Some people call it surfacing. And now the shading department says, oh, the trunk should look like a maple tree. So they put texture on it, and the leaves should look this way or that way. And then after that, someone might say, oh, there was maybe a little bit of dust in the air. So that's the effects department. They come in and do effects look. And another department called the crowds department will say, oh, I noticed you have people in the background. We will take care of that. So it's the crowds department. The lighting department steps in there and says, okay, you've been looking at all these things with very, very simple lights. Now let's put the real lights, like the more cinematic lights, the more dramatic lights. So we do that. And after lighting, there's a department that is in charge of finishing those images, because as I mentioned, when we create frames, they take 200 hours. So at Pixar, when we look at frames, they're not perfect. And we don't want to look at perfect images because they might take really long time. The department at the very end, they're in charge of now making the perfect image, and that takes a little bit of time. When those images, that shot is done, it goes to one more place called color grading. And color grading is basically everything is done. Let's look at it one more time. Do we need to fix the colors a little bit? Is there a distracting highlight in the image that my eyes keep going to? Let me fix it. Let me take it down. So the life of that shot, on average, I would say is between 10 to 15 weeks. So 3 to 4 months for that one shot. But that's why we have 300 people working on many, many shots at the same time. And that's how we managed to make these movies in 2 to 3 years.
Okay. So we finished this section. The next part is going to be more on the technical aspect and skills.
Okay.
The only thing is, well, Zoom is kind of evil, and it says there's only 5 minutes left on this meeting. So
Yeah,
do you
if you
want me
want to,
to like redo a link? Or
yeah,
like, I mean, it should be the same link, it's just restarting
yeah,
to a different.
yeah,
Okay.
let's see.
So
Yeah,
we get
perfect.
to a good time and just
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.